Hello guys, Patrick here, Eggnot Poker. New video today. So I'm going to be deep diving into some more theory today. So unfortunately no Play and Explain today. We will be jumping back into another session for Play and Explain tomorrow. So mental game. This is something that we're going to be covering today. We're not going to be looking at anything strategic. We're only going to be looking at the strategy of the mind, which is the mental game. So just before we get in, as always, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing. We've got nearly 500 subscribers now. We've got 50 odd members in the Discord and we are growing daily. So thankful for that. Thank you guys. Again, also to anyone who's interested in the content or has been following me for a while and not subscribed, at least half of you watching this video are not subscribed right now. So go ahead and press that subscribe button. Get the bell icon clicked, get the subscribe button clicked on, leave your comments, like the video, please show support. It makes a massive difference. Thank you so much. So, mental game then. Mental game's an interesting one because I think a lot of people have been... say for example, you take yourself for example, and just say to yourself, look, whether I'm winning or not winning, whatever, I'm playing poker, I enjoy poker, I want to get better. How do I get better? What do I do? Where do I go? Well, we've looked at some videos on some basic strategies. We've looked on some videos on where to go to actually specifically start studying and learning. But a massive part of study isn't actually just like textbook. Like you're not just looking at, oh, this is the frequency, this is the c-bet size, this is the board, this is the range, blah, 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 blah. A massive part of strategy and learning actually comes from the mental game. And this is something that absolutely is not talked about in a lot of content out there, and it's extremely important. And it's something that you absolutely need to be considering in how you go about your study routines and how you look to improve and your perceptions of the game and others, like your villains that you play against. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some of the conceptions and misconceptions of mental game. We're going to see, look at some points and coaching points that may be relevant to you, and also have a look at some potential remedies. What I want from this video really is for you guys to look at this. And again, no matter what your ability level or situation within the game, winning, losing, high stakes, micro stakes, it doesn't matter. You need to be considering your mental game and looking at potential leaks and flaws and looking for areas of improvement and thinking about these types of concepts. So just before we start here, what I want to look at to begin with is just two things here, or three things, I suppose technically. It's the top couple of lines here. You need to, if you're a losing player, okay, then you need to admit that you're a losing player today, right now. So just before we start, and I'm going to use myself as an example from several years back when I was a tremendous losing player several years ago. I was a really, really terrible player. I was absolutely getting carved. I was playing micro stakes. I was playing mid stakes. I was kind of all over the place. I was, depositing the $50, redepositing the $50. I just couldn't do it, right? Like, the biggest thing for me was I couldn't accept that I was a losing player. I couldn't accept it. And it's only when, don't get me wrong, I did a lot of study and work and bits and bobs as well, but it wasn't until I kind of accepted that I was a losing player that I turned it around to start becoming a winning player. I know that sounds a bit sort of clickbaity and that sounds a bit sort of cheesy and you've come from losing loads and then all of a sudden you've just boom, there you go, you've clicked your fingers and become a winner. It didn't work like that. But what I'm saying is something that I think a lot of people don't appreciate or realize is if you're not a winning player, you must admit it right now. Just literally go to your graphs, look at all your data and tell yourself, am I a winning player or a losing player right now? There's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong, but if you're losing, breaking even, losing, you need to admit that you are a losing player. That right there is the biggest strategic improvement you can make to your game instantaneously without anything else. That right there is the most important and the quickest thing to identify and start changing and improving on. Is just self-acceptance, just understanding and appreciating where your situation is and how you can improve it. Moving into the second point is how we can do something. Like, just in general, just do something about it right now. So, for example, watching this video is something that is looking to try and sort out this issue. You don't have to be a losing player to watch this video. You know, even if you're a winning player, it's still extremely important and something you should be using as you move forward in any stakes that you play. But admit you're a losing player, and if you're not a losing player, okay, change that up and admit that there are areas that you can work on and improve. That's another good alternative as well. And do something about it now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not next resolution, New Year's and so on. Today, right now. Things that can be done. There are plenty of them. We'll look at some in a minute. Another big one is that people just negatively channel, or they just channel their negativity towards other people. So in terms of like a mental game and a psychological thought process and again, I'll use myself as a really, really good example, right? I had massive issues. We'll look at some specific examples in a minute, guys. I'm not just going to babble about a bunch of nonsense for ages, I promise. But we're just going to look at, I'm going to use myself as an example, okay? And I just want to look at and briefly explore with you how thinking negatively versus thinking positively overall changes your whole dynamic. And this isn't some life lesson, but it absolutely relates to everything in this planet, not just poker, is your mindset. If you're constantly negative and you're like for whatever reason, and you're constantly looking, you know, good session, bad session, losing player, winning player, whatever. If you've got negativity around you all the time, you're just a negative thinker. You're always frustrated. You're always angry. You're always irritated. You're always looking to, you know, sort of get on the, you know, you're always defensive about everything, and you're looking to channel that energy and hateful energy towards other people. So, for example, you'd be like, if you're the kind of person that's always like, ugh, you know, I didn't make a mistake, they made a mistake, and because they played bad, it led to me losing the pot, or it led to me doing something else. It's their fault, right? Even if it's true, it doesn't really matter. It's just a really bad negative mindset. It's just really bad to have that kind of thought process and mannerism. So you really need to try and focus on that and try and have a generalized positive thought process moving forward. So you really need to think about it. I think a lot of strategies in terms of poker are just way too narrow-minded on what strategy is it specifically. Like, you know, you're playing chess, and what piece am I going to open? Where am I going? What's it going to do? What am I going to do in 20 moves? Blah, 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 blah. But with poker, it's not just strategic thought processes, it's also a mental game. It's so important and just absolutely, completely, like, you know, it's not, I wouldn't say ignored, but it's just not focused on by a lot of content out there. So I really want to try and sort of get in your heads today and really, really see if I can sort of bonk the hammer on your head and see if I can get in there and see what we can do. So let's get started. So what we need to be doing is we need to be looking for constant areas to work on and channel your time into improving your own game instead of looking at the mistakes and issues with others and use that as an excuse. So basically what we mean is, as we just basically briefly mentioned, is that we just need to put all of our time and effort into identifying our situation, our goals, our good points, our bad points, strengths and weaknesses, but also just our own areas for improvement within the game, and putting all our time and energy, negatively or positively, into that and looking to progress and move forward, and absolutely trying to take away all the energy, negative energy specifically, where we're focusing on the issues of our opponents. Don't think about them or what they're doing wrong, identify it, but then adapt and work around it in order for you to then move forward and progress, rather than use their failures as an excuse for your failures. So like I said, the game will never start and the game will never end, okay? This game will always be there one way or another. It will get harder, but, you know, the game will always be there. So you don't need to be in a mindset and a process that it will never change. You're going into a game fresh, you're going into a game positive, you're going into a game with a good strategy, and you'll adapt, you'll figure out your opponents and move around them and go from there every single time that you play whether it be live, online, whatever it is. But you must have this good mental positivity. So our mental barriers. So what I want to do is I'm not going to sit here and just blab, guys, right? But what I'm going to look at is some of these barriers that I think are really important that might be relative to you. We'll find out, right? If this is a thing you can do at home. Any of these points, if you identify them and they seem relative to you, specifically you, mark them and copy and paste them and just look at them and really use it as a realization for something that you need to focus on. Because it may not just be strategic issues that are holding you back. Don't get me wrong, if you can't beat micro stakes and you're losing at 50 big blind per 100 plus over a huge sample, there might be some issues there. But on the top of that, mental game might absolutely be a huge part of it as well, not just the strategic issues. So what kind of mental barriers are there? I mean, there's lots of different types of tilt. There's lots of different type of barriers. There's lots of different types of issues that arise. But we're going to go through some of the most common ones, in my opinion. So the first one, the first mental barrier that I can think of that I've put down on this list is winning tilt. So what is winning tilt? So these are the kind of thought processes that constitute winning tilt. So number one, we've got here, I'm thinking that I put this in different points of view here, but I'll just go with it as I've written it down. A mannerism that says, I am better than all my opponents. I'm better than all of my villains. So whenever they make a bad play, I'll scoff at them. I'll berate them. I'll belittle them. I'll just consider myself above them and better than them. Other mannerisms could suggest things like, you're making stupid sort of show-off plays or big fancy plays that are completely overplaying in silly situations, like you're doing some crazy bluff that makes absolutely no sense to try and show off. You're showing lots of silly hands, you're showing lots of silly plays, and you're doing it for no other reason than to prove to other people that you can beat them or that you're better than them. There's no actual strategic reason and there's no value in it at all. It's literally just an egotistical thing. And the third point would be fake and unhealthy self-belief in invincibility. Believing that because you perceive yourself to be better than other people in the games that you play, it can lead to things like you feel more confident, but in the wrong way. Like you don't feel confident in your own ability as in, oh, I know that I can get away from this, so I'll do this. It's more a case of like being egotistical and saying, look, I'm just going to do something really silly all the time. Oh, you probably got a really good hand here, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to jam over the top of you because I can, because I'm with this silly hand that makes no sense in this silly situation, purely because, I'm better than you. Who are you? Why are you coming at me? You see what I'm saying? This can lead to things like, for you guys, for example, like multi-tabling, like if you can't beat a certain stake on one table, right, but you kind of believe you're better than your opponents, it's kind of a thing where you think, there's people online who are playing 4 tables, 10 tables of Zoom at the same time. I can do that, no problem. Like they're not even that good. I'll just do it. If you can't beat the games that you're playing and you're playing one table, it makes absolutely no sense to then double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, whatever the amount of tables that you add on. So in terms of this is also, sorry for jumping stakes prematurely as well. It comes under the same sort of thing. It's like that kind of mental and unhealthy self-belief that you can just, there's no consequences for jumping from 25 to 50 NL, even though you're barely breaking even, for example, instead of just focusing on what you can do to improve and then climbing up. Winning tilt is massive, and it's something to identify in a lot of players. So that's one major barrier that can be potentially found in your game. So ask yourself a question. Do any of these bullet points, are they relative to you? Like, think about that right now, because this video isn't me talking about a load of bullshit for 45 minutes now or whatever it is. This is me about bringing up lots of different types of mental barriers, different types of tilt, different types of actual real life issues that come under this mental game concept, and it will apply to you when you're playing your games. These are questions, these are pieces of information that you must identify and use and ask yourself. And when you identify things that are relevant to you and then actually do something about it, that is going to get you in a healthy and a strong mindset to progress. It is huge. It's not just about theory. It's absolutely also about your mental game, your mental stability, okay? Your mentality at the game. So what's another barrier? So we've got ignorance. So ignorance is me, by the way. This was one of the, apart from entitlement was another one, but that's later down the list. Ignorance is a massive barrier and mental problem for a lot of people playing the game at all levels. So what is this ignorance then? So ignorance is just, I mean, it is what it says on the tin, right? Ignorance is just, for one way or another, you just don't really know the answer. You're just kind of ignorant to the fact of whatever's kind of going on for whatever reason. Within poker, I've got 2 points here. So I don't know what to do, right? This will frustrate me. This will lead me to get very resentful and very hateful because I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know the answer and I'm stuck. And when you're stuck at something but you can't go and study the answer or figure out how to move on from that, that can absolutely sit on you, and that can just make you feel like you just don't know how to move forward, and you feel like you're stuck and there's nothing you can do about it. You kind of feel like you're drowning in the middle of the ocean and you don't really know what to do or how to get away from it. That also comes forward to not knowing how to improve. Not only I don't know the answer, but also I don't know how to go find out the answer. So for example, if you were studying anything, right? You were studying a degree in mathematics and you were stuck on some kind of, crazy, some kind of test or some kind of a maths question. I don't know, right? I'm not a mathematician. I wish I was. Actually, no, I don't wish I was. Weird kick. But what we're trying to say is if you're struggling with something, you would have you'd have your tutors, you would have your course books, you would have lots of information, you'd have loads of places and books and whatever to go and find out what the answers are and to figure out what it's doing and why. Whereas with poker, it's kind of like, if you don't know what the answers are in a lot of situations, and there's no clear-cut answer with this game, but you're looking at going, right, well, I'm in this situation, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. Okay, fine, that's one area of ignorance. But what you can do is you can try and go figure it out. You go, okay, well, how do I figure it out? You can't just try things. I mean, you can, but you don't know if they work because you got lucky, or they worked because your villain did a mistake, or they worked, purely because, maybe, if you don't know what I'm trying to say is, if you don't know what you're doing and you're just guessing things, it's going to hurt you, and you're not going to really know or have a cemented acknowledgement of what to do and why. So for example, like just not knowing how to improve, this also compounds the fact that you get more frustrated. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to improve. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to go to, what piece of information I need to find out what to do. It's this ignorance that kind of, it festers. And that ignorance then turns into frustration, and that frustration then turns into resentment. And then when you get very resentful, you get more angry, you get more frustrated, and then you get more tilted, and you just don't improve. You're kind of like, boom, you've gone into a barrier here, and you can't push past it. And you're stuck on like 5-0, you're stuck on 10-0, you're stuck on 2-0, and you don't know a lot of the spots, and you don't know how to go and figure out what the answers are. Ignorance is a massive mental barrier. Like it's kind of like someone just waving in your face, and it's really fucking irritating, right? Someone just puts his hand in your face. It's quite frustrating and it's quite annoying. But if you can't get it out and you don't know how to figure out the answers and how to push forward, this could be a massive barrier, huge barrier. We're going to look at how to overall just try and break some of these barriers later on down the end of the presentation I'm doing today. But just with ignorance, just one thing, there are things that you can do with this. So there's absolutely places online, there's community forums, there's lots of different Discord channels, there's streamers, there's other places, loads of different sites that for free that you can go and join. Myself included, my Discord, which is also at the bottom. That's not a clickbait, that's not a sales pitch, it's just a fact. We've got 50 members, or technically 49 members, and a polling application and a poll app that I've added, who's a robot. But 49 of us and the bot. People can add their hand histories. People can add their theory questions, whatever. They can just chuck all the pieces of information in, and ask what people think, and then we can start communicating between each other. It's the same with loads of other different places. You can go and get coaching with, there's loads of different really, really good sites out there. I'm not going to name names. You just go out there, you go on Google, so, there's loads of different really, really good coaching sites and so on as well. And obviously, of course, you've still got the solver work as well. Like you can purchase a solver, you can purchase an application like GTO Wizard. Link to the description is below. Loads of stuff you can do. I mean, even if you just go on YouTube, you can find pieces of information and add them to your game. The only problem if you kind of find random bits and bobs, it's just kind of it's validating the sort of the level of what kind of information you're getting. So, for example, if you're doing coaching with quite a good level coach, or with a good team, or you were doing some solver studying, for example, you kind of get the right type of info that you need. Whereas you might get some kind of dodgy stuff on YouTube, but you never know, right? I mean, this is on YouTube, right? So it is what it is. So our next point and potential barrier that might be relative to you is disassociation. And what I've done is I've also sort of bracketed here autopiloting. So disassociation in general is like you kind of put yourself away from everything. I mean, this can also be a social thing, but just in general with poker, disassociation, I mean, within the game rather than outside of the game. But disassociation from or autopiloting from the game basically means that you've alienated yourself from the game, and you don't really have a lot of personality towards it. So, for example, you may not feel excited or energetic. You may not feel disappointed or sad. You're just kind of very static. And I don't just mean, if you don't get tilted very often, you don't get frustrated, you don't have much emotion in general, that can be a good thing. But as long as there is some passion and some overall enjoyment to the game as well, it's important to actually kind of like, especially if you're doing lots of mass tabling, it's really important to just take a break now and again. Literally in the game and also outside, to just take some time away from the game now and again. But it's just really important that you take some time and you make sure that you don't sort of fall into this trap of just like, you're calling or raising and you don't know why. You've just done it because, whatever. And you're kind of losing your skill edge, and you're turning into a bit of a robot where you're not even thinking about processes anymore because you're either bored or you're or you're disinterested, or you just kind of have lost your passion. Like, in terms of like a realization, losing your ability, I've put it here, losing ability to consistently think about decisions instead doing things robotically without any reasoning or thought process. That's one of the main things. Another is zero positive or negative emotion and disregard for consequences or outcome. I mean, as I put it here, you must feel passionate and you must enjoy what you do and playing the game. Even if whether you do it for a job or whether you do it for recreation, it doesn't really matter. You must be passionate and you must feel like you're enjoying the game. If you feel resentful or you feel miserable all the time, then there's some underlying issues there that may need to be looked at. And the game should not be used as a tool to take yourself away from reality or to do other things. Okay. And then finally here, this can lead to negative and resentful mannerisms towards poker, and also things outside of poker as well. So just start thinking about these. So we've gone through winner's tilt, being powerful, invincible. We looked at ignorance, so not knowing what to do, not knowing how to improve, and disassociation, so sort of distancing yourself away from everything and not being sort of fully engaged in what you're doing. First three here, like look at these and see if there's anything that is relative to you, because it's identifying what issues and potential barriers come up in your games, not strategic ones for today, but the mental ones, looking at them, identifying, like sort of appreciating them, identifying them, and trying to figure out, okay, if you go, well, I know I'm in this game, I know that I sort of autopilot a lot of the time. So what's a potential remedy? I accept that. I need to work on it. So what can I do? For example, something positive with that might be you reduce the amount of volume that you put in. You give yourself more breaks. You make sure that you've got a better mindset. You make sure you've got a better sleeping pattern outside. Whatever it is, it's just identifying and accepting these barriers and turning them into things that you can then progress from and move forward away from, rather than sort of finding excuses and staying where you are and being stuck. So the next one for me was absolutely, probably still is the most relevant for me, is entitlement. So what is entitlement? I mean, entitlement is basically feeling like you're owed something for whatever reason, okay? I'm entitled to this, I deserve this, right? And using that almost like it just as this kind of standpoint for whatever happens. It's almost like the game, if you take a bad beat, it's like, oof, it's almost like you were owed something. The game, can I say something? The game absolutely owes you fucking nothing. It owes you nothing. This earth owes you nothing but what you make of it, right? I'm not going to give you some deep dive life theory lesson, but in the game of poker, right, this is a hard fucking game. It's a really tough game for any level, right? Accepting that you have issues like entitlement and kind of at least starting to learn to appreciate that you have that kind of mental barrier and then trying to break through it. That is going to, accepting that is going to be so huge in trying to like progress as a player, because it's not just about understanding it. It's about actually having a mentality that says, look, even if you know you're better than your opponents, you have no right to tell them that. You have no right to act as if you're better than them. If anything, you should appreciate it, be humble about it, and tell yourself you're better than them. But that doesn't mean anything. That just means great, that's fantastic. But all you should do is just use that as an ability to make more money and to make the game easier when you're playing it against them, and not as some kind of reasoning or excuse to get angry or get frustrated or resentful or to play bad because, oh, I'm better than you, things like that. So see if any of these are relevant to you. Have you ever said to yourself, I'm a good player, I'm just unlucky when I lose? That's probably quite a few of you, including myself, a lot of the time. I'm better than these players and deserve to win, right? Does anyone feel that? Do you ever feel like you just deserve to win that bit more than other people? These absolute spanners are just chucking it in with ace-4 offsuit pre for £500 in a £1, £2 game. I got it in with my kings and they won. And you feel entitled. You feel like they've stolen it from you. You feel like, who are they? That's my part. How dare you win? You should be thankful and very grateful for playing players like that and not resent them. You are not owed anything. If someone wants to gamble and get it in like a 7-1 dog, whatever it is, then you should be very thankful for it. Don't ever forget that. Finally, I'm trying to improve at my game. I deserve to win. This is massive. Because you study, or because you do coaching, or because you just work on your game one way or another, or you spend 10 hours a day on YouTube trying to search things and content and whatnot, it doesn't mean anything in terms of like, yeah, it's good, hopefully, but it doesn't mean that you're entitled to win because you deserve it more than someone else. You don't know how hard or not at all that your villains are working to improve their game. If you're watching this video right now and you're working specifically quite hard on your game and you're really putting a lot of time and effort into it, you should expect a lot of other people to be doing the same. And be resentful about that, because that makes the game harder, right? But be grateful that there are people out there that are still not very good at this game, because the day that the weakest players become average and better, the game just absolutely dies and turns into cyborgs tearing the bones off of the rest of the human beings left on the planet. Not that there'll be many of them left. Do you understand? You should absolutely appreciate, if you're better than someone, don't tell them. Just be the better guy. Be humble and know in yourself that you're better. But don't use it as an excuse to shit on people. It's not a thing. This is a fun one. Revenge and envy. Revenge tilt's a thing, by the way. It's a massive thing. Think about these points here and see if any of them are relevant to you. Number 1, that guy is winning and I'm not, so I'll show him. Have you ever had that where you can see someone where I've actually had this already, Like, I think I've already had this in a few circumstances where people have sort of shat on me for good or bad reasons, for correct or incorrect reasons, for valid or invalid reasons, where they see me do something, or anyone, right? And this is life as well. This isn't just, I'm just using myself as an example. I think it's good to use myself as an example, considering I'm the person making these videos, is when I'll use myself, right? When like a few years back, what I was really I was just doing it I was awful, right? I wasn't losing tons of money, but like in terms of losing, I was losing a lot, right? With the small stakes that I was playing. You kind of think, well, that guy's better than me. Like, that guy's winning, or that guy seems to always be getting the better of me and doing things that I don't understand and I'm ignorant to. That comes to the other type of tilt. You feel that you are owed something because you don't think you're as bad as you think you are. You think that you're working hard when you don't know that you're probably not. You feel entitled. So that moves on to the other type of tilt, entitlement. You feel like you almost need to go after people just to make yourself, like, say for example, someone does something and then you win in the pot against them for whatever reason. You had aces, he had kings. You go, yeah, I showed you. You know, it's nothing more than resentment. It's envy. It's being resentful and envious because that person appears to be doing something that you want to do but cannot do. You know, you're not at the ability to do so. So does anyone ever feel like that? I would think a lot of you, including myself, even consistently now, there'll always be people you'll be envious of. But it's just, you know, you shouldn't go in this game. It's really bad to deviate to a level where you're sort of coming after someone for no other reason than to do, not even just to show off, but just to get them because you feel envious of them or they've done something to you, you know. Another one on the other side is when that guy, like say for example, that guy got there on me. Right? Oh, that dirty bastard, he got there on he got a 5-outer on me or 2-outer or whatever it is. I'm going to get him back. I want to go back after him. You know, you're not envious of that person, but you want revenge. You want to feel like you've avenged yourself. You know, you're very resentful and you want the revenge. You want to be the last man standing. I get it. You know, I get it. People are competitive and people get irritated when things don't go their way when they think that they should have done, right? You got it in good, you deserve to win. No. You got it in good, you had a higher percentage chance to win, but you didn't win, but you weren't entitled to that pot. You had a higher chance of winning it, but you did not deserve it. No one deserves it. Okay, there is no level of deserving. Even if you get it in drawing 0.1%, that 0.1% is still there. You know, whether they that person's put themselves in that situation, that's their thing. You know, it's nothing to do with you. And then finally, others win and I don't. So I will resent and hate them and be very envious instead of focusing and improving on myself. And again, I'll use myself as an example. In live games for very, very long periods of time, there were absolutely people, both people online and live, who I felt very envious. And I didn't like the fact that they were winning and obviously winning. They were doing things that I wanted to do, but I was not able to do, you know, because I was basically terrible. I was ignorant. I was entitled. I was envious. I wanted to win. I wanted to be the man, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't accept it and I couldn't figure out how to do it or why or what was going on. And laziness on top of that. And that made me very, very resentful. And because of that resentful, that for years, right, for a long, long period of time, I did not progress or want to progress. You know why? It wasn't even just laziness. It's because I didn't think I needed to. I thought I was just unlucky for years. I mean, I'm just born unlucky, right? No. Everyone will get unlucky now and again. And some people, you know, they'll have those times where they go for weeks or months where things just don't go the way they're supposed to. But if you want to gamble, which inevitably poker still is gambling, you are not entitled to anything whatsoever, okay? You can put the most effort into the game and you will see results long term. That is true. But it's not guaranteed to come straight away. And it's not guaranteed to come without any kind of like background issues or problems or underlying faults that you'll need to figure out and plug along the way. Moving on is fear. Fear comes under a few different points that we're going to look at in a moment, but fear's a big one. Fear, and I think is a common one, and I think for all players, like apart from the absolute just animals of this game that don't feel fear with anything, which is really cool. And I'm somewhat envious of a lot of players who can play like this. Is just like the fear of losing is one of the main fears and most common fears. There are different fears we'll look at in a second, but fear of losing. So for example, whether that's actually money won. So say for example, you've won 5 buy-ins, you want a buy-in, 2 buy-ins, you've won $50, $1,000, whatever it is. And you're in that game and you're saying, we'll look at the coaching points in a second, but just as a generalization, it's the fear of losing that profit. So say for example, you've made a profit and then, here we are. It's now, does that make you, like, if you're up a certain stage of your session, say for sake of argument, you're in for 100 big blinds, you double up to 200 big blinds. Does that make you play better, or does that make you play worse, or does it make you just not feel any different? Doesn't make any difference, because I'm not telling you that, like for me, right? If I get like to any stake, I mean, apart from micros, but if I get to any stake relevant, I get over 200 bigs. I'm mainly studying 100 big blind strategy and like 130, 150 big blind strategy, whatever. So when I start playing 200, 300, 400, 500 plus big blinds deep, I wouldn't say I play fearfully. Like, I wouldn't say fear is the main problem, but I would say that I feel somewhat uncomfortable because I am ignorant to like 200 to 500 big blind stack depth play, which means, again, I start moving into territories of becoming quite ignorant and uncomfortable, and I don't feel confident in my ability. And then that self-doubt comes in, and then that fear then starts to creep in and become quite obvious and quite apparent. So things like things that might be relevant to you, ask yourselves these. Like, I'm up and I want to lock this money up so I can stay a winner and feel better about myself. So I would think this would be a lot of you, and again, including myself, quite often, in fact. I mean, I don't hit and run, and I don't really like, I'm not a big sort of fan on rabbiting or rat holing or whatever, however you say it. I'm not saying I've never done it, and I'm not condoning people that do, especially if you're shot taking or playing pretty decent stakes on tough sites and you study 100 big blinds and that's your strategy. Fair enough, absolutely that is what you're doing. But you need to identify, like, for example, if you're playing at this, like, I'll just use micro stakes, I guess, as an example. If you get to micro stakes and you feel like you're uncomfortable and you feel fearful to play, like you're worried about losing profit, you're worried about playing a little bit deeper, you're worried about taking risks. So purely for the fact that you'll feel like a losing player if you lose. So Xavier, are you the kind of player that plays a session and is really terrified to look at the results? Oh no, have I lost? Have I won? And it may not just be the money. It might just be the fact that because it's a win or a loss. Whereas if you win for whatever reason, whether you played really well or got lucky or whatever, you go, oh, I won. I'm really happy today. I'm a winning poker player today. But then tomorrow you go ahead and lose, and then you think, oh no, I'm a losing player again. Like very, very, like, oh, massive winner, really happy, or I've lost, oh no, the world's going to end, and you're fearful of losing if you keep playing, things like that. Massive mental leak, really bad. Like, what you need to do in that case, and this is something that you probably should say now, you should really think about dropping down stakes at any point if you feel that you are not comfortable playing. Even if you're up a small amount but you're terrified of losing it and you need to rat hole, not because you feel uncomfortable playing the stake or because playing 200 bigs deep, but it's solely because of the money, then you're playing too high and you need to drop down, and you need to go all the way down until you get to a level where you can progress without having that as a consideration. Like, don't get me wrong, it is nerve-wracking to play deep, right? And I'm not saying you have to play deep, in order to be a good player, but you do need to get this looked at and worked on if fear of losing and having losses prevents you from playing your best, because you'll feel like a losing player if you lose, and then on the flip side you feel overly happy and excited and rewarded because you've been a winner today. It's a big thing. You can't see yourself as a winner or a loser based off session by session. You have to be a winning player or a losing player based on a large sample, and it gives you the ability to physically see how well or badly you're doing, and then you can progress. That you shouldn't call yourself a winner or a loser in this game. You can be a winning player or a losing player, but that doesn't make you a winner or a loser. It just means that you'll always have areas for improvement, and it's just kind of identifying that and using that as something that you should be pushing for and striving for, to just keep improving, keep working on your game and not being scared of losing, okay? So just quickly here, Also, other points like if I lose this profit, I'll regret it. I think regret actually comes under another type of tilt, and it's close to, I guess what we're going to say for next with self-manipulation, we'll go in a second. And then finally, I don't want to go back down a stake because it means I've failed. Right? I'm fearful of losing at this stake. I'm fearful of losing my profit. I'm fearful of playing because I may lose. And if I lose, that means that I feel like upset and I feel depressed and I feel like I can't beat the game. Whereas I'm up a small amount. If I don't play, I can pretend I'm a winning player because I've got the green number. And if I play and lose, that means I might be a bad player again and have the red number. You cannot see it like that. What you must see is that the game, you're either winning or you're losing, but you're not a winner or a loser. Okay? If you're winning and you're winning consistently, you must be looking for more areas of improvement to keep going up in stakes and to keep playing higher, and obviously just to keep improving in general. If you're a losing player, it doesn't make you a loser. It just means that you're currently losing, and you need to identify it, figure out what issues there are. Are there mental game flaws? Are you fearful? Are you entitled? Are you frustrated? Do you get angry all the time? Do you have bad bankroll management? Or are you just absolutely just generally terrible at the game? Any and every one of those needs to be thrown into a cauldron, chucked through together, and you need to find what the secret formula is to make that taste that little bit better and to actually make you a bit more of a winning player. You need to identify what these issues are. So again, look at these. Are any of these relevant to you? I would think at least most of the people looking at this today, this is extremely relevant. And fear, I'll use it again as myself. I'm always constantly, I'm quite an anxious person, right? I don't suffer from anxiety, but I've always been nervous and anxious about doing things for the first time. But when I get into something, I tend to be quite good at it. Maybe not things that are for smart people, but I just mean in general. But let's say not good at, but let's change that word and make it passionate. I'm more passionate about something. I enjoy something more once I've done it for the first time. But it's the fear and the barriers preventing me from getting to that first time that prevent me from moving forward. And it's exactly the same with poker. Really, really important to know. So the next one is self-manipulation. Telling yourself it's okay when it's not. And this is extremely harmful and very dangerous and very, very bad because this compounds, and this is like a cancer in a way. It will sit and eat away at you and get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Self-manipulation. So how do we explain that? Let's have a look at 2 points I put here. First of all, this is relevant to you. Keep telling yourself whatever justifications are needed to excuse a bad play or a lucky outcome and not focusing on what the issues were. So for example, if you get frustrated and you make a bad play, and obviously when it doesn't work out, you get angry about it and whatever. But when it works out, so say for example, you know the guy's value betting, you know this is a terrible call, and you're calling more out of frustration. You make the call, get lucky and win. So for example, you get it in 10-1. 10-1, and they're a 10-1 favorite. You get there and you say to yourself, oh well, it's okay because maybe he was bluffing, I had to call, or you just kind of like, oh whatever, it doesn't matter. You can't use that as a justification. You have to know that you're making, in the long run, to be a winning player. You have to identify how to make good plays and consistently, and not let the issues, like the mental issues, creep in and set in. You cannot tell it's almost like you've got the angel and the devil on your shoulders, and one's telling you to do something good and the other's telling you to do something bad, but both of them are you and both of them are the devil, and you're saying to yourself, look, oh, it's okay, it doesn't matter, we'll figure it out next time. Whereas actually what you should be saying is, no, that was a terrible play, and I understand and acknowledge it was terrible. I know what was terrible about it, and I will note it, and I will not do it again. That's what you need to work on. That is improvement, especially with the mental game thing, rather than just being like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll figure it out next time. It's not okay. It's really, really, really not. Okay. Next one is another fear, and it's the fear of risks and failure. So we had a little bit of failure with the first fear, but fear of taking risks and fear of failure. See if these 2 points are relevant to you. I know I should call, but I don't want to risk this much money. Or I know I should bluff here, but what if he calls? I may lose all of my profit if I'm wrong. These are all questions you're asking yourself, which are giving yourself doubt. And because you're doubting your ability and you're doubting the sort of integrity of yourself, your game, and your bankroll, and you're basically saying, oh, I know I need to do this to win. However, I'm not doing it not because of a strategically bad, but prioritizing some kind of self-manipulated reason, and the fact that you just stink of fear and you're just not strong enough mentally to just make the jumps, make the bluffs, make the calls, right? And this is more relevant to like mid stakes, high stakes, I suppose. But what I'm saying is, like, if you know that you're being held, you're holding yourself back because of this fear, you're scared. You say, well, I'm at 10-0, I'm a small winner. We don't have winners and losers, but I've got a small win rate and I'm winning at the game. But I don't want to play 25 an hour because I don't want to risk all of that bankroll. I don't want to risk having to come back down and say, I took a shot and I lost, I'm losing again. Oh no, I have to make that back. That's not a consideration. If you are winning at the game strong enough to jump up, to look at your bankroll, figure out how much of it you want to put at shots, whether you take a 2 big blind shot, buy-in shot, 5 big buy-in shot, 10 buy-in shot, whatever it is. Take the shot. Go for it. Try it. If you've identified that you're winning over a decent enough sample correctly, rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it for nothing other than ego, then you must try. Because if you can beat the stake below you, especially up to say 50-0, then from 2-0 to 50, you'd be surprised how close each one is to each other. Just learning to win in general will basically net you a profit in most of the stakes, like macro to low stakes. That's the truth, honestly. There's not massive differentiation between them. It's only that there's more of the players that may give you trouble, rather than the whole game dynamic changes massively, because there isn't a big consideration. They're not massive changes. It's just how many of the people are apparent in the populations that you play that might give you trouble, and what different types of different parts of the game tree where you wouldn't in the previous stakes. So I guess that comes into self-manipulation as well, because you might say, it's okay, you don't have to do it today, we'll try and do it tomorrow. No, if you think you can do it and you want to give it a try, fuck it, go for it, see how it goes. Because all that's going to happen is one of two things. It's either going to go really well or it's going to go really terrible. And if it goes really well, well done, excellent. And if it goes really terrible, it doesn't matter, because you know what? You fucking tried. And because you tried, you figured out what went wrong, you figured out whether you got unlucky, genuinely, or whether you played bad, or both, and all that does is that gives you a bit of a realization. And next time you shot take again, after going back down and building your bankroll up again, you then take your next shot, and again, and again, and again, and eventually you will get there, because you're always improving, you're identifying your mental game leaks, you're looking at your strategic gameplay, and you are improving every fucking day. Like, excuse my language, but it's just the truth. If you're not passionate about it and you don't want it, you will fail. It's just that simple, and it's the same with everything else. There is nothing holding you back but yourself. If you do not study, if you do not work, if you do not put the effort in, if you're always terrified, you don't do anything about it, you don't deserve it. It's just that true. Rant over. Last few, and then we're done here, is so fear of taking risks and fear of failure. We've moved on with that. Frustration. So being frustrated mid-game and off-game, so these come together, I suppose. You can be frustrated in the game currently. So say, for example, you're in a session, you get frustrated. Mistakes made from both the hero and the villain. Some examples, may include things like making mistakes yourself that sit on your mind. You made a bad call, you made a bad bluff, you made a bad raise, you didn't get the maximum value, you feel resentful, you feel like, frustrated, I didn't do it properly, I should have done this. You keep thinking at the back of your head what you should have done better. That part of your brain is you're focusing on instead of what's in front of you for the next hands. All of this information and all these frustrations in the game should be focused on outside of the game, and should not have any impact on your next hands moving forward. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you can't get frustrated at hand. Of course you can, and you will be, but you need to try not to focus on it, because it's something that you'll work on outside of the tables when you're doing your studying, whether you're doing your identification on what type of flaws and issues you may have and how to work on them. You need to blot this out, because it's something that you need to develop. I call it leather skin. You just have to develop it. It's not something, I cannot tell you how to lose 10 buy-ins in a session and deal with it. No one can tell you that. Whether you lose the equivalent of 10 cheeseburgers or the equivalent of a house in a session, that may have some slightly different outcomes on how you perceive that loss. But what I'm saying is, you need to start putting the game as something. It's not money that you're using You're putting money as a resource, and it's a tool to win more money. Okay, it's not you're not looking at a £5 note and seeing it's worth £5. You're putting in a £5 note into the game, and you've got £5 worth of chips, and you use those chips to battle with, and you boost strategic deployment. You're playing like a war. You're a general, and you're doing your war. You're battling, and you're putting your armies in strategic points of the game. Whatever, and you're fighting and taking battles and whatever that are going to help you win the war. That's what poker is, and it never ever ends. So as long as you are strategically doing the right things and you are mentally prepared and focused, all you can do is flourish, and you can just keep improving. That's all you can do. You've got to get rid of these barriers. You've got to get rid of these irritations. You cannot let previous frustrations affect you for your next decisions. Okay. Focus on bad beats during sessions. I suppose that comes under the same thing. Seeing that you are currently losing in the session. This is a big one. I would strongly urge anyone, if they can, and this is maybe not good for people who, are starting out or have massive mental game issues. I'm not saying that you should look at your HUD results next to you when you play. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Technically, you shouldn't have it there, not because you don't want to see the results, but just because they're not relevant. That's for studying off the tables when the session ends. You don't need irritations, you don't need distractions. But what I mean is, you need to learn to not be fearful of losing and being scared of looking at it because you're losing, or just being really excited. Oh, I've won a big pot. Oh, fucking hell, yeah, I got aces in against kings and I doubled. Yeah, I'm gonna look at my results. Yeah, I'm up a buy-in. And then when you lose, you think, oh, I don't want to look at my graph. I'll ignore it and try and hide it. I used to do that. I used to literally have my results graph hidden, minimized, and I had it in a situation when I brought it back up on the screen, I could not see my results, as in I could see the hands, but I couldn't see the wins or losses. And you know what? I would ignore it, and that's bad, because you need to identify that you're winning or losing, and you can't have it as a distraction. If you feel like you're losing for the session and it's affecting you, it's really bad and needs to be worked on. And flip side, if you're winning in a session and you think it's like inappropriately affecting you, like you're going to play really, really scared, or it's going to make you feel like heightened and you're full of adrenaline, you're going to do loads of crazy stuff, it shouldn't change the way you're playing. I mean, strategically it will because of the stack depths, but you know what I'm saying. And then finally, off-table frustrations, fatigue, stress, depression, anxiety. These are things in life that will never change. You're always going to be tired. You're going to be busy. You're going to be working. You're going to have stress with your girlfriend, your boyfriend. You're going to be stressed from work. You're going to be stressed at home. Kids are doing whatever. Depression, I mean, I don't know a lot about depression, so I'm not going to pretend I do, okay? But just in general, right, you're going to feel depressed about a lot of things. You're going to feel miserable about a lot of things. Poker should not be a way of escaping reality. Okay, and that comes under some of the disassociation stuff we talked about before. Poker should be something that you enjoy. Poker should be something that you're doing for good reason, whether it's for money, whether it's for recreation, or both together. It can't be an escape. Very important that you need to identify that. So some quick remedies then, and then we are finished, is we're going to look at these and very briefly go over them, and then we're done, okay? First of all, overall remedies for mental game. Some of the strategies you can do. First of all, and I think the most important one, is you need to admit that you are losing in the game if you are. And if you're winning in the game, flip that over and just tell yourself that there are still areas for improvement. Identify them. Find them, okay? There are lots of different ways of doing that, whether you're studying solvers, you're doing your coaching, you're doing your own video playing explains and looking at them, whatever you're doing. But you must admit that you're losing in the game. It's really important. If you're not beating the game, you must identify it and admit it. Because as soon as you admit it, like we said at the beginning, and you identify what the triggers are, the different types of tilt, the barriers, the mental issues, you need to identify them, and that will help you to push forward. It really will. If you say to yourself, look, I know I'm not talking about strategy, but I'm talking about mental game. If you know that you've got like entitlement, and you know you feel egotistical, and you know that when you are down in a couple of buy-ins, you start becoming fearful, whatever, you identify them and start treating them. Yeah, it's really, really, really important. You must admit. It's self-acceptance. You're admitting to yourself what the flaws are in order to overcome them, rather than using other people's problems and issues and mistakes as an excuse for your own. So admitting things must change, that comes under the same. We've just explained. Seeking help from others. So again, briefly mentioned previously, whether like seeking help, right? Whether you physically go to a mental game coach, I believe there are. I don't know any personally, but I believe there are some good ones out there. Also specifically for poker, but also just all sports and games in general. Whether you're looking at reducing the ignorance in the game, so you're actually physically getting coaching, whether you're actually physically studying solvers, whether you're actually going out there, you know, including my own Discord community. There are loads of other ones as well that are fantastic. Getting involved in groups where you can discuss things and discuss hand histories and discuss issues together as a team, and not having the game take over you like it's a one-on-one thing. Yeah, the game's single player. There is no team sport to poker, but in general, having people around you that you can talk to about the game and off the game as well just makes you so much more confident and makes you so much more, it almost like releases any stress and anxiety and tension around the game and just makes it so much better for you. Constantly looking at data from your own trackers. You must look at your results. You must physically be looking at your graphs. If you don't have it like PT4 or Holder Manager or whatever, you don't track your results, you damn well go and do it now and go and get them, because you must have data. I know some sites don't allow you to, but what I'm saying is you must, if you're able to, you must have it. You must have the data, because it's not just about looking at villains, it's also about looking at yourself. I've got a 95% fold to 3-bet. That's probably an issue strategically. You're only playing 10% VPIP, 10% of hands. It's probably a strategic issue. You know, because you're identifying what the issues are, that reduces the ignorance and is positive to you, because you're identifying, okay, maybe I need to play some more hands. Maybe I need to stop folding as many hands. And that, I say, I can do that. That's something I can do to help me progress. I'll try that. You're finding stepping stones to keep moving forward and reasons and excuses to progress, rather than reasons and excuses that are holding you back. Track your wins and your losses. Super important. Don't be scared. Do not be scared. You know, if you're losing, you are losing. It doesn't matter. All that's going to happen is you're just going to start trying to learn to become a winning player. Not a winner, but a winning player, okay? There's no, like, this game is very predatory in general, strategically. But also I think there's a lot of, like, people just don't feel like they're accepted in the community anymore. It's very much like you study everything and you're a cyborg, or you're just a waste of trash. That, you know, waste of space. You're just a piece of trash, piece of garbage, don't care what you say. Everyone has a right to an opinion, and everyone should be heard. It's really, really important that everyone has their voice and their concerns brought to light. If you're losing and you feel like you're on your own, like, just join my Discord community. Literally, clickbait or not, whatever. Get involved, join. Links at the bottom in the description. You know, come and talk to us. Join the community. It's super important, really important that you feel like you're accepted in the game and you have somewhere that you can voice your concerns and try and progress with another group of other people as well. A tip for all of you out at home is to start recording. This is whether you're winning or losing regardless. Start recording sessions. Start physically recording your own sessions with your own thought processes, talking out loud. Like some of my Play and Explains before. Do your own, and just, you don't have to upload them for other people, but watch your own sessions. Take notes while you're watching, and I promise you'll look back and think, no, that's awful, or wow, that was really good. And you're identifying spots where you're stuck on or you don't know, literally, and then you can identify them and then work on that to then get better, literally. Really good for self-acceptance, really good for mental game improvement, and really good for finding literal physical leaks. Go and find communities of players who want to learn and improve together. We've spoken about that. Discord, my Discord, loads of other groups, loads of other forums, Reddit, 2+2. There's loads of backseaters in there, but just who cares? You know, get involved with like-minded players who enjoy the game. Potentially considering coaching. I'm not talking about myself. I don't call myself a coach, okay? I'm not advertising coaching with myself. I'm just saying in general, okay? That's a disclaimer. That's really important. But considering coaching / studying solver strategies, whether you go and, I mean, again, clickbait or not, at the bottom is the GTO Wizard link for the 10% off for the GTO Wizard. It's really, really good. A huge database, loads of information. There's also a video and link in the description below for any of you who are interested in it. It's a really good place where you can go and start doing your own studying, whereas you're not just looking on YouTube to see what the latest guy is doing and see how it goes. You want to start learning the whys rather than the whats with poker today. That's for another day. Go and look at that description in the video description in the link below in this video description. and go have a look at that. It's really interesting. Potential coaching work with there's loads of really good coaching groups out there. Even if you're not interested in coaching or learning stuff, solver studies, just talk to people, go find content out there. There's so much content for everything, for the better or for the worse. There's no reason to feel like there's nowhere to go in this game anymore at any level, unless you're playing the absolute highest of levels. Okay, it's just about finding groups of communities and groups of people where you can interact with them and talk about the game and go from there, rather than feeling like you're alienated and on your own. If you don't know the answer to questions but you want to go find out, go and find out. It's that simple. It's not easy, but you must go and find people. You must go and talk to people. If you're not stuck on things, ask me. I'm not saying I'm the best in the world. I'm not, really not. But ask me. Join my Discord community. Ask all of us, and we will help you. Okay, I promise you that. And then finally, for Christ's sake, don't forget to be positive and enjoy the experience. Poker's still really fun, guys. It's predatory, it's frustrating, it's an absolute pain in the ass most of the time, but enjoy it, because be passionate. If you enjoy something and you're passionate about it and you feel like you're looking for areas to improve and you know what you need to improve on and you're working on them, that makes you feel like you're progressing, rather than just, every session, I just got unlucky, that's why I lost. Even if you did get unlucky, who fucking cares? No one cares. You should care, but by caring, you should care enough where you can work on what your issues are and how to improve on them, rather than using other people's issues, whether they're true or not, as an excuse for you to not do anything about them and just go, I got unlucky, it doesn't matter, just another bad session. You probably, like most times, 9 times out of 10, when you say yourself you got unlucky, most of the time you just probably punted in one way or another. You made a mistake or you made an issue somewhere down the line anyway, and you may not be as good as you think you are. Anyway, so that's an hour. Bloody hell, that's longer than I want it to be, but it is what it is. Again, if anyone's got here, please like, please comment, chuck your information, chuck all your comments down below. Please like and subscribe as always, guys, and I'll chuck out a Play and Explain tomorrow, I promise. So, without any do's, I will see you in the next one.